Israel is denying reports of a ceasefire in southern Gaza to allow foreign nationals to flee for Egypt. Some media outlets had said the Rafah border crossing was about to be opened to allow people to leave and aid to enter the besieged territory. UN fuel trucks have been seen in the area, but their destination is still unclear. Reports had said the truce at the border would take hold for several hours. But the office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says this is not the case. Palestinians have been gathering at the crossing in the hope of escaping Israel's bombardment. Our correspondent Tanya Kremer is in southern Israel, and she told me more about the possible opening of the Rafah border crossing.
Well, at the moment it's a bit of a confusion whether it will open or how it will open, because in the early morning there were first reports that there would be a pause in the hostilities or a kind of temporary ceasefire for the crossing to be open, that people can pass. Mainly this would be opening for dual nationals, as far as we understand, for foreign nationals to Palestinians with foreign nationality to pass through the crossing. But this was based on reports in a news agency. But we have now the Israeli Prime Minister's office had put out a statement and denying that this will happening. There was also reports here, one Hamas official reportedly saying that they're not aware of such an opening. At the same time, we are getting reports that some of the trucks are leaving from Gaza to Egypt. So we need to get you some information and confirmation on that in the coming hours or so. There is, of course, you have to understand what's happening here in the past 24 hours as well. There have been, despite the movement of people from the north, the evacuation order by the Israeli army going to the south. There have been still airstrikes in the southern part, of course, of Gaza. And people, it's a very complicated crossing, so opening a crossing under the circumstances, there need to be all parties involved so that people can move from place to place. It takes a bit of time to get people through the crossing. And also we have to say Egypt is also very worried about opening this crossing because they don't want to see masses of Palestinians then being refugees on their territory. So at the moment, it's not entirely confirmed when the crossing will actually be open for the people to move in that direction.
What about the situation on Israel's northern frontier with Lebanon? Can you tell us more about that?
Well, we've seen in the past days, ever since the war started, more and more incidents on the northern border between Israel and Lebanon, between some of the Palestinian factions there, but also Hezbollah and Israel, like anti-tank fire, missile fire. And this morning, the Israeli Defense Ministry and the Israeli army put out a joint statement saying that they intend to evacuate the residents of the northern border towns and villages that are in the area up to 2 kilometers next to the Lebanese border. There will be people there will be hosted in state-sponsored guest houses for the time being. So meaning this could be an indication that, there's also the expectation that the situation might get worse. So far it seemed to be somehow contained, as far as you can say that. But there's of course a lot of worry and concern that there might be a second front being opening, especially if such a ground invasion in Gaza might start and that Hezbollah might enter the war, or Hezbollah is Iran backed, so that there might be another front opening up in the north.
Tanya Kremer reporting from Ashdod. Thank you so much, Tanya. The Israeli military has raised to 199 the number of people confirmed to have been abducted by Hamas to the Gaza Strip. Israel has been massing troops and tanks on the border with Gaza ahead of a much-anticipated ground offensive. They've ordered more than 1 million Gazans to move south ahead of the operation. Hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza are in a desperate situation now as supplies of water, electricity and food run low. Israel has stepped up its bombing of the enclave as part of its campaign to obliterate Hamas after the group massacred more than 1,000 Israeli civilians.
A moment of silence for the victims of Israel's deadliest terror attack. This is how the first meeting of Israel's expanded emergency cabinet began. The solemn mood followed by a vow for vengeance.
I saw our wonderful fighters who are now on the front line. They know that the whole nation is behind them. They understand the magnitude of the task. They are ready to snap into action at any moment to wipe out the bloodthirsty monsters who seek to annihilate us. If Hamas thought we would fall apart, they were wrong. We will tear Hamas apart.
Israeli forces have been amassing at the Gaza border, waiting for the green light to begin a much-anticipated ground offensive. As the threat of invasion looms, airstrikes have continued raining down across the besieged territory. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have fled to the south after an Israeli evacuation order. But they're not safe from airstrikes here either. Israel also cut off Gazans' access to food, water and electricity, compounding the misery. The queues for water wind their way down streets. Desperate people line up for hours.
I've come to get water. We don't have any water. We've reached a disastrous situation. The situation is catastrophic by all standards, with a crisis in food, water, and electricity. I mean, people can't do anything in the current conditions. If you go to people's homes and film inside, you will see extremely dire situations.
Israel says it's now agreed to turn the taps back on in southern Gaza, providing a drop of relief as the conflict deepens.
I spoke to journalist Hazem Balusha earlier. He's in Nusayrat in the central Gaza Strip, and he told me more about the situation there.
It's chaotic. There is continuous of Israeli aerial bombardment and airstrikes in different areas across the Gaza Strip. There are reports that it's more intense in Gaza City and the border area and northern part of Gaza, but still as well, there were many strikes in my area and in the south in Khan Yunis and Rafah. Regarding the humanitarian situation, still there is no electricity. As you mentioned in the report, there are like queues for people with gallons and tanks or whatever they have to fill it with the water for washing. There is no drinking water. Barely some mobile trucks come to the areas, along queues at the bakeries and restaurants and grocery shops to grab whatever they have. There are many people are sleeping overnight in their cars or in the street because there is no place to go. Still, Israelis are asking Palestinians in the north and Gaza City to evacuate to Khan Yunis, but those people, they are not able to move because there is no transportation or it's risky road. And you know, like people wondering about like when this is gonna end, or if there is rumors about ceasefire or a temporary pause for to cope with the situation they are experiencing these days.
Hazem, I wanted to ask you about these reports of a possible ceasefire, which would allow foreign citizens to evacuate and, of course, allow humanitarian aid to come in. Have you heard any more about these rumours about this possible ceasefire?
All is still rumors. No concrete information about this. Like all, I mean, at least from Palestinian side, that Hamas and officials in Gaza, they said we haven't heard about it. There is no concrete or solid information talking about this. All rumors. There are like a lot of mediations led by Egyptian and Qatar and other parties. But I mean, still on the ground, there is no confirmation on this.
All right, Hazem Balusha reporting from the central Gaza Strip. Thank you so much for your update.
Thank you.
We're joined now by the World Health Organization's Regional Director for the Eastern Mediterranean, Ahmed Al-Mandari. Welcome to DW. Thanks so much for your time. We're hearing the Rafah border crossing might be opening today. Can you tell us what preparations are in place once the border opens to presumably get aid in as quickly as possible?
Thank you, Anya, for giving me the opportunity. And in fact, yes, we heard that today morning the cross-border will be opened. We as a WHO already landed one airplane full of supplies, medical supplies, that are ready to be, shipped to Gaza once the corridor is open. Our arrangements with the Egyptian authorities that these supplies will be handed over to the Egyptian Red Crescent, which will be also from their side handed over to the Palestinian Red Crescent on the other side, and make sure that these supplies will reach these hospitals and will be given to the healthcare facilities across Gaza.
Could I just ask you, where are you getting the information that the border will open? Is this something that we can bet on?
We are having our own communication with, the Egyptian authorities. We, as the WHO, as well as the UN resident coordinator. So that sort of arrangement is with the Egyptian authority. But until now, we don't know exactly what time today morning it will be opened.
OK. You mentioned medical supplies. Can you tell us more about the type of aid that you're going to be able to provide people with once you get through the crossing?
Yeah, I mean, these supplies are of around 26 metric tons that worth $1.2 million US. It included trauma kits. It included emergency kits that can be utilized, to deal with injured people in the field, as well as the hospitals. It included medications for around 120,000 people who are suffering from non-communicable diseases. It included also medical supplies and medications for around 350,000 or 300,000 people, including, pregnant ladies and children. So these are briefly, the content of these supplies.
OK, the need is obviously huge. We're hearing that the ceasefire agreement is only meant for southern Gaza. Is there enough aid that's going to be getting in, and will it reach people in the north as well?
Definitely, whatever aids that we are shipping now is far below the real requirements there and needs. And that's why, in fact, we are urging all donors and partners to provide us with these medical supplies. We have our own supply, hub in Dubai, and things are ready there to be shipped. We are just waiting further arrangements from the authorities here in Egypt. But definitely, as you have seen on the ground, the number of the casualties, the destruction of the healthcare facilities, it is far below what are the real needs there on the ground.
All right. The WHO, the World Health Organization's Ahmed Al-Mandari, thank you so much for your time and for bringing us up to date.